You're here because you want to get straight to the point, right? Cut through the noise, find those aha moments where things just click.
Exactly.
Well, today we're diving into exactly that kind of situation. A recent flashpoint in the Red Sea. Really dramatic stuff.
It shows how a mistake, a miscalculation, can escalate incredibly quickly.
And the consequences, well, they ripple outwards, don't they? Far beyond just one attack.
Absolutely.
So for this deep dive, our main source is a really detailed breakdown we found on the Navy Media YouTube channel. It gives some great insights.
Yeah, it lays things out pretty clearly.
Think of us as your guides here. We're going to pull out the key info, figure out what happened, why it's, such a big deal, and what it tells us about the bigger picture. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So to get this, you really need the context first.
Right.
The Red Sea.
Right. Crucial shipping lane, global trade highway.
But it's become, well, pretty dangerous territory, especially since late 2023. The Houthi rebels in Yemen. They started this campaign.
Claiming solidarity with Palestine, but hitting all sorts of ships transiting the area.
And it's not just one or two incidents. The source we looked at mentioned over 40 confirmed attacks in a fairly short span.
40. Wow. And their methods, they're getting more sophisticated too, not just basic stuff anymore.
No, definitely not. They've used, one-way attack drones, which are relatively simple, yes, but also anti-ship cruise missiles.
More complex.
And even anti-ship ballistic missiles, which is a step up again in terms of threat.
And this is having a real impact, isn't it, on actual shipping?
Oh, absolutely. You've probably seen the news. Ships rerouting all the way around Africa.
Adds huge delays, costs.
Exactly. Time, money. Some ships have been hit, damaged, even abandoned. It's disrupted global commerce, no question.
Okay, so into this messy situation, the U.S. Navy steps in. Operation Prosperity Guardian.
Right. A multinational effort, really, trying to protect those commercial shipping lanes.
And we hear names like the USS Carney, Gravely, Laboon. They're right there in the thick of it.
Doing the defensive work. And the Carney, in particular, our source, highlighted its record, intercepting, over 40 drones and missiles itself.
40. So these aren't just stray shots being knocked down. This is active defense working hard.
Very active, using advanced systems constantly.
Which brings us then to the specific event we're really digging into today. The Navy media source talks about a Houthi drone swarm launched from Yemen.
And their intended target, it seems, was what they thought was just a regular tanker, something vulnerable.
But here's the twist, right? The YouTube video title even hints at it. They messed up the targeting. Big time.
A fundamental error. That radar blip they were tracking, it wasn't some slow tanker.
It was.
An Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. Highly advanced, heavily armed.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this because this seems crucial. What makes an Arleigh Burke destroyer so different? Why was hitting one of these, or trying to, such a huge blunder?
Well, think of an Arleigh Burke. It's basically one of the most capable warships afloat. Seriously sophisticated, multiple layers of defense, powerful offensive weapons.
So not exactly a soft target.
Not even close. It's like a floating fortress, armed to the teeth and shielded.
Okay, so this drone swarm thinks it's found an easy mark, but instead runs into this fortress. What happens? Walk us through the timeline from the source.
Right. So initially, the destroyer is doing, seemingly routine work. Escort duty. Things are relatively calm. Standard day. But then the ship's electronic warfare team, they start picking up weird radar echoes, strange signatures.
Something's not right.
Exactly. And almost immediately, the Aegis combat system, think of it as the ship's brain and nervous system for fighting. It automatically flags multiple inbound targets, fast movers.
And didn't the source mention some Navy slang they use for this?
Yeah, vampires inbound. Yeah, common Navy term for incoming anti-ship missiles or threats. So, multiple vampires detected. Instantly, alarms are blaring. General quarters. Sailors running to battle stations.
Okay, so chaos erupts. For us trying to picture this speed, what does Aegis actually do when those alarms go off?
It's designed for exactly this. It identifies the threats, tracks them, figures out their course, their speed, and works out how to kill them. Air, surface, even subsurface threats.
All at once.
All integrated. So in this case, it calculated the trajectories of these drones and missiles in like milliseconds. And the response was immediate. SM-2 missiles fired from the vertical launch system.
The source described those like thunderbolts, right?
Yeah, streaking into the sky. That's the first layer, but there's more.
Right, because some might get through that first wave, the source mentioned, CIWS.
Correct. It's the IWS close-in weapon system, often nicknamed Phalanx. It's that Gatling gun-looking thing on the deck.
The fast-spinning one.
That's the one. Fires incredibly fast, something like 4,500 rounds a minute. Tungsten bullets.
4,500 per minute.
Per minute. Its whole job is just to shred anything that gets past the missiles. A last line of defense. The sound is apparently just this high-pitched buzzsaw noise. Terrifying, I imagine.
So you have missiles, then you have this wall of lead. What was the end result of this whole engagement?
Total success for the destroyer. The Navy media piece said the whole thing, from the first detection to the last drone being destroyed, took just 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
That's it. And the result, 0 hits on the destroyer, no damage whatsoever. The attack was completely neutralized, wiped out.
Wow, 90 seconds. That just hammers home how fast and lethal these systems are. So the Houthis picked the wrong fight. They thought tanker, they got a state-of-the-art warship.
Exactly. They fundamentally miscalculated. The Aegis system is always on, always scanning. Air, surface, subsurface. It sees everything.
Hard to sneak up on.
Extremely. And it calculates intercept solutions in fractions of a second. Combine that with missiles like the SM-6, which apparently fly at Mach 3.5.
3.5 times the speed of sound.
Yeah. It creates this incredibly tough defensive bubble. They just couldn't penetrate it.
Okay. Attack fails spectacularly. No damage to the U.S. ship. What happens then? The source suggests things shifted very, very quickly. From defense to something else.
That's right. A clear, rapid pivot. Almost the second the last drone was splashed, the planning for retaliation began. The decision was made.
And this wasn't like, let's have a meeting next week. This was immediate.
Oh yeah. The account suggests it was very swift. Orders came down. Target packages started getting put together. Pilots briefed. We're talking hours, not days.
Where were they launching from?
From a nearby carrier strike group operating in the Arabian Sea. Flight decks were busy. This wasn't just another patrol. This was a specific targeted response operation spinning up.
And what was the target or targets for this retaliation?
The main focus, according to the source, was a known Houthi launch site near Hodeidah, that port city. It was identified as a key staging area they used for launching these drone and missile attacks.
Makes sense. Hit them where they're launching from. What kind of planes did they send?
It was a coordinated package. You had FA-18 Super Hornets, the main strike fighters, then EA-18G Growlers, those are the electronic warfare specialists.
Jamming. Exactly.
And also unmanned MQ-9 Reapers for the ISR role, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, watching everything.
Okay, so a mix of capabilities. How did the actual strike unfold? The source mentioned phases.
Yeah, multi-phase approach. Phase 1. The Growlers go in first. They jam the Houthi radar, mess with their communications, blind them, deafen them electronically.
Soften things up.
Right. Phase 2. Suppression of enemy air defenses, or SEAD, using precision weapons, probably AGM-88 HARM missiles, which home in on radar signals to take out their radar sites and any surface-to-air missile batteries protecting the area. Clear the way.
Makes the main strike safer.
Definitely. Which leads to Phase 3, the main event. The Super Hornets roll in.
And what are they hitting with?
A mix. GBU-38 JDAMs, those are GPS-guided bombs, very accurate, and also laser-guided bombs, targeting hardened facilities like launch sites, drone storage bunkers, command posts.
Taking out the infrastructure.
And there was a secondary target mentioned too, a specific radar tower believed to be coordinating their missile launches along that coast. A key node.
Did it work? The source mentioned secondary explosions?
Yes. Multiple secondary explosions were reported and apparently seen. That's usually a very good sign.
Meaning they hit fuel or ammo dumps.
Precisely. It suggests the strikes hit exactly what they were aiming for, stored munitions, fuel, causing those bigger follow-on blasts. Indicates very accurate intelligence and effective strikes, degrading their ability to attack from there again.
And critically, any U.S. losses in this retaliation?
None. The source is clear. Not a single U.S. aircraft was damaged. They all returned safely to the carrier before dawn.
And they had proof of the damage later.
Yeah. The next day, satellite images were released showing the destruction at the targeted sites. Confirmed hits.
Now, the U.S. has hit back at the Houthis before, right? But the source really stresses that this response was different somehow. The speed, the precision, the timing. Why was that so significant?
It sent a very powerful message. And not just to the Houthis in Yemen.
Who else is watching?
Well, the source specifically mentions countries like Iran, which backs the Houthis, but also China, Russia. Major powers are watching how the U.S. handles these situations.
So it's like a signal to the wider world.
Absolutely. The key takeaway here isn't just they retaliated. It's the way they retaliated. Swift, precise, overwhelming. It signals, potentially, a shift. maybe less tolerance for these attacks, a move towards immediate, decisive action to deter future ones.
It really does feel like a strategic shift, moving maybe from just swatting down incoming threats to actively dismantling the capability to launch them.
That seems to be the message, yes. And there's a psychological aspect too, right? The Houthis might have felt somewhat safe launching attacks from within Yemen.
Thinking they could hit ships with impunity?
Perhaps. This response shows that attacking a U.S. warship, specifically, triggers immediate and severe consequences, right back to the source. Location isn't necessarily protection.
So, the Red Sea, as the source points out, it's become more than just a shipping lane now. It's a testing ground.
Yeah, a real arena. Testing political will, regional influence, military power projection. It's all playing out there.
And this incident, the attack and the response, it delivered a pretty clear message.
A very clear message. Don't underestimate the U.S. Navy. Don't mistake their warships for easy targets.
Yeah.
If you attack them, the response will be fast and it will be forceful.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the key points for everyone listening. Big mistake by the Houthis, attacked a heavily defended destroyer, not a tanker.
Attack completely failed due to the destroyer's advanced defenses. Aegis, SM-2s, CIWS, all over in 90 seconds.
Then a very rapid shift. The U.S. Navy didn't just defend, they launched a swift, precise retaliatory strike.
Using a coordinated air package, hitting key Houthi launch infrastructure, causing significant damage with no U.S. losses.
And the big picture implication. This wasn't just tit for tat. It signaled a potentially tougher stance, a clear warning about the high price of attacking U.S. naval assets. Maybe changing the rules in the Red Sea?
The cost definitely went up after this.
Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thinking about that speed, that scale of response. What does this tell us about how things might play out in other contested waters around the globe?
That's the crucial question to chew on, isn't it? With everyone watching allies, adversaries, how does an event like this shape international calculations? Military strategies moving forward. It's a potent example of deterrence and the risk of miscalculation.
Definitely food for thought. The situation there, as our source suggests, it's still very much in flux. Things are likely to keep evolving.
No doubt.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you a much clearer picture of this specific significant event and why it matters. Thanks for joining us today.